Drapion fires off the Aquatail, forces the opponent's final protection. We pivot into Dragonite. The opponent give us that wham, bam combo play. Fire off the air cutter, Dragonite, paper fin, but air cutter simply doesn't cut it. Dragonite shrugs off the damage, fires off the Thunder Punch, down goes Corviknight, back out, comes the Dene, and Dragonite is a Dene counter confirmed. Welcome back to the channel. Buckle up, because today we have an absolute banger of a battle submission from the very highly talented, highly skilled, and all-round nice guy Komviper. You can often find this highly talented trainer very high on the global leaderboards, and he always does it in his very own unique way, often running very spicy, very strong anti-meta picks, which is right up my alley. Today we're going to see him put his skills to the test using a Pokemon that has had a complete makeover for Season 24's Go Battle League. Dragonite has always found some niche play, but it's essentially a Pokemon where you 2-shield it, tap your phone like a raving lunatic, and attempt to Dragon Breath the shit out of everything. Neutrally has always been a powerhouse, able to bully its way through matchups in the 2-shield scenario. However, that's no longer the playstyle of this Pokemon. It is now very, very quick to charge moves, and has some new coverage with Thunder Punch. Back in the day, if you got this Pokemon aligned against Azumarill, you may as well top left, because you could do nothing to even dent it. However, now you're generating 4 energy per turn. You're able to heavily outpace Azumarill to them super effective Thunder Punches, and you're going to see that Dragonite actually has a lot of win cons, even against this nemesis, that bulky blue bunny. Dragonite's always been very shield dependent, not only because it's hella glassy, but because it lacked pacing. Dragon Claw used to come after 12 turns, and Superpower after 14. Now both the Thunder Punch and Superpower reached after 10 turns, meaning you're able to keep pace and actually outpace a lot of common threats. I mean, you can often chip and dip when you use it like Komviper is in the lead position. Team building today, he actually messaged me quite a funny message saying, I know you hate Steelix, but it is a necessary evil to help cover for its vulnerabilities to fairies. With all that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we lead Shadow Dragonite into Shadow Cradilly. If this was last season, we'd pace at the same speed to the Superpower when they reach the Rock Tomb. However, nowadays, we're able to outpace. Komviper fires off the Superpower, forces himself an early shield advantage, and then attempts a Rock Tomb catch onto the Steel Snake. If you're wondering why Komviper is still opting for Thunderfang as opposed to the reworked Dragontail, well, Dragontail will be double resisted into Fairy type, and then Ice and Water types like Lapras and Deagon will be a huge headache for this team, whereas Steelix still with Thunderfang hits them back in turn for super effective. It's also very nice coverage into Flying types, and Flying types did get a huge buff this season. Dragonite able to Dragon Breath farm down before Talonflame reaches the departing charge move. Out comes Azumarill, formerly such an atrocious matchup, but that Thunder Punch does very solid damage, and then we see the pivot into Drapion, once again keeping 2 shields intact. Komviper invests the first Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Ice Beam. Poison Stings shredding through Azumarill's HP. Komviper fires off the Crunch. Crunch removes Azumarill from the field of play. Back out comes Cradilly. Cradilly instantly greeted with the Crunch. Crunch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and this is G to the G. Komviper still with a shield to behind, uninterested in shielding up Drapion, wanting to superpower that Cradilly to the face. To be honest, we got very, very low, but Komviper knows what he's doing, able to superpower Cradilly and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Gastron in the lead position. We're running an ABB team where we are double weak to ground, so this is certainly where the team wants to see it. The opponent say switch into Corviknight, we fire off the Thunder Punch, forcing a Protect Shield. I thought Komviper was going to go for the Air Cutter catch onto Steelix. We do attempt it the second time, but unfortunately catch attempt was unsuccessful. Despite Thunderfang no longer being the recommended moveset, Steelix was pretty good with Thunderfang last season, and guess what? It's still just as good today. We're only 2 battles in and Thunderfang has been objectively better in both battles. Not entirely sure why the opponent was throwing Air Cutters out of Steelix, potentially got like Iron Head or Sky Attack as a second move. Back out comes Gastrodon. We force in the Earthquake, which I'm really surprised they shielded. Not sure why you shield Gastrodon when they know we've got Dragonite waiting for it. Speed of which, Dragonite re-enters the arena, lands the Superpower, monstrous damage. Komviper says, Dragonite, thank you very much for your contribution, and elects the 2-shield Drapion, looking to ride it home. Drapion able to get a very nice resisted Poison Sting farm down. Back out comes Corviknight. Corviknight's reign swiftly ended by the Crunch. Out comes Lapras, and this game is signed, sealed, and delivered. Not entirely sure why the opponent's playing it out. We've got a 2-0 shield advantage. Their only win con is Komviper, of course, having that heart attack, which I'm very grateful to tell you all he hasn't had, or him lagging out. To be honest, game state actually isn't too bad this season, and neither of them win cons occur. We land the next Crunch and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Cresselia in the lead position, likely running the rework, the new and improved Confusion. So don't be like me, the first time I saw a Confusion user this season, I was so caught out by the new faster pacing. So now every Confusion thrown generates 14 energy or 3.5 EPT. The Pokemon that caught me out was Hypno. Back in the day, it used to be 4-3 to them elemental punches. However now, any 40 energy charge move thrown from a Confusion user is reached in straight freeze. In Cresselia's case, they're likely running Moonblast and Grass Knot. The Moonblast new counts will be 5-4-4 and Grass Knot 4-4-3. So if you want to improve in the game or just keep hitting Legend rank every season, it's very important that you go to school, kids, and learn them new counts. Returning to the commentary, we see our first matchup where Steelix opting for Thunderfang did us no favours whatsoever. Dragonite finally removes Marowak from the field of play. The opponent sends back out Cresselia, we bank our energy, make the pivot into Drapion, and out comes Pachirisu. This thing is so bloody bulky, man, and also a buff Pokemon for the first time ever getting some coverage. I'm not really sure it's great coverage. Hyperfang. But it is what it is, at least you can hit neutrally against Pokemon that would resist electric. So I guess against stuff like Stunfisk. Or I guess any ground type, stuff like Clodsire Marowak. But not the Bear Trap, the Galarian Stunfisk would still fully wall you. I guess situationally, Pachirisu now has some like get out of jail free card. If you already chipped the ground type, potentially you can Hyperfang at endgame and get the dub. Speaking of which, this Pachirisu far too bulky for Komviper, and unfortunately this one does end in heartbreaking defeat. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Dusclops in the lead position. I wonder if we go for the Ice Punch catch. The opponent doesn't even farm up to the Ice Punch, goes straight for the Shadow Punch. The glassy Shadow Dragonite going to oblige, putting up a Protect Shield. Komviper over farms, returns fire with his Thunder Punch, forcing the Protect Shield back. Komviper makes the adjustment, recognising the opponent likely goes straight Shadow Punch and able to catch it onto the Steel Snake. Out comes Primeape. Primeape doesn't farm up anything other than a Rage Fist. Oh my days, Legacy Cross Chop, Steelix Bulk, hold strong, reaches the Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs gets no respect but does force a debuff on their defense. Dragonite able to Dragon Breath farm down before they reach a charge move. Back out comes Dusclops. Is our Switch Timer going to pop up so we can make yet another catch? Switch Timer is up. Komviper, the absolute mad lad, makes yet another savage catch, keeping Dragonite with residual energy in the back. I certainly think Pokemon like Dragonite will suit the better players. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I mean people that have got good idea or good understanding when timers are up, etc. and make high IQ plays. We've actually got a Thunder Punch banked, and Dragonite is certainly going to win CMP against the majority of the meta. With that in mind, as long as we can remove this Azumarill from the field of play and ensure that Dusclops finds itself in Thunder Punch range, this is game over. Komviper actually opts to throw the Thunder Punch at Azumarill, recognising Drapion also wins CMP against Dusclops, but it looks like Drapion can have a well-deserved rest, chilling on the bench for the endgame, as Dragonite lands back-to-back Thunder Punches, and we take that game. I really do love shoutcasting high IQ trainers like Komviper. It's like poetry in motion. Speaking of which, yet another catch right on cue, this time with a resisted Drill Peck onto the Steel Snake. I was not expecting a Talonflame to enter the arena. Not this a bad matchup for the opponent. However, ABA Flyers and a meta were both basted on the stupid brick wall, and Carbink, aka Stinky Binky been buffed, is madness. Clearly this opponent's like, if I don't believe in them, they can't hurt me. Komviper able to Dragon Breath farm down Talonflame's remaining HP. Back out comes Zapdos. Dragonite so far ahead in energy, able to reach back-to-back Thunder Punch. The first one went shielded, the second one knocks him out. Out comes Dragon Breath Giratina. Honestly, Carbink trainer. Carbink! This is such a wild team composition from the opponent. I'm not entirely sure how they're getting away with it, but I guess it's the early ranks. You can run whatever you want and just look to have fun. If I ran this team and saw Carbink or Bastion, I just top left, pretend it never happened and move on to the next battle. Drapion, invest the Protect Shield, reaches the next crunch, and we all know this one's going to end. High Giratina, bye Giratina, as we take that game. I believe that's the end of set number 1 in a 3-set shoutcast today. I've probably got these battles out of order, but I believe there's 15 of them. Heading into the next battle, we see Primeape in the lead position. Of course, we do need to be mindful of a potential Ice Punch. We see the opponent actually bank the energy on Primeape, attempt to catch onto Corsola. Komviper not falling for any of that shenanigans, shows cat-like reflexes, banks his energy and hard punishes it with Drapion. Drapion lands the crunch, rocking the opponent deep into the yellow health range, although in fairness, the power gem also landed with heavy damage, but Drapion has such a heavy pacing advantage here. After landing the crunch, we can go straight Aqua Tail. The opponent reveals some kind of charm. I didn't see what come in, but I did see the charm animation. What's this thing called? I always call it Dash Hound. I think it's called Dash Bun. Whatever it's called, I don't really give a shit as Steelix completely commanding. The opponent pivots back out into Primate. Primate gets greeted with the Dragon Claw. If I was Komviper, I'd just 2-shield here. Tap, 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 tap. Try and Dragon Breath the shit out of him. Yes, we're down shields, but how is that silly Charmer gonna dent Steelix? I already know it isn't. Komviper does exactly that. Back out. Comes the Charmer. We're going to fire off the Superpower, minimise the farm. A Superpower goes unshielded. It didn't look all that resisted. We Thunderfang farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Dragonite in the lead position. By no means a good matchup. You don't need to immediately pivot as they're not applying all that much fast move pressure. Whilst it is 7 to their play rough. Of course, against Dragonite, they're going to spam that parabolic charge, and Komviper once again makes about his 100th savage catch of the video. Our Steelix Say Switch is answered by Lapras, which is by no means a good response, especially as we're on Thunderfang. This is what Yasuo would call a scuffed matchup. Fast move pressure, all with us, but our charge moves don't do much of anything, whereas their charge moves, as you already saw, almost picks up the one-hit KO. Komviper looks to realign, he's able to do so, leaving very low. Oh, that's brutal, unfortunately. We don't get to debuff this Corviknight, which is kind of unfortunate. As at -1, this Thunder Punch would have done crazy damage. You can see even a neutral Thunder Punch did quite a lot. Komviper goes for yet another catch. This time catch attempt unsuccessful. And this is going to get very, very dicey. Or if the opponent fire off the Play Rough, which doesn't buff up their defense, but does do incrementally more damage. Drapion hangs on, reaches the Aqua Tail, but loses CMP. Komviper going to invest to protect shield and look to force the opponent all shields down. Does this force the final protection of the opponent? Yes, it does. We see the pivot into Dragonite. The opponent give us that wham, bam, combo play. Fire off the Air Cutter. Dragonite paper thin, but Air Cutter simply doesn't get the job done. Dragonite hangs on, reaches the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch removes Corviknight from the field of play. Back out comes the Dene. Dragonite will not be denied. Reaches the Superpower, and is a Dene counter confirmed. Who was worried? Holy crap, I was worried, but Komviper gets the job done. In the next battle, we see yet another fairy in the lead position, and stay in school, kids. Learn to count. Yet another savage catch. The Steelix Say Switch goes unanswered, and the opponent isn't looking to bait anything other than yet another brutal swing, as opposed to that Hail Mary overheat. Speaking of Hail Marys, Steelix gonna full send the Earthquake. Earthquake, monstrous damage. Steelix takes back Switch. You love to see it. Switch timers heavily misaligned. Komviper looks to make use out of Dragonite, fires off the Thunder Punch onto Malamar. Komviper says that's enough use for you today, Dragonite. You've done your job. Foul play removes us from the field of play, and now we've got Drapion with a 2-to-1 shield advantage and an advantageous matchup against both remaining Pokemon. Back out comes Galarian Weezing. Drapion unleashes the first Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail isn't quite lethal. We attempt another catch. Catch attempt unsuccessful. We're able to Thunderfang farm down. Galarian Weezing's remaining HP. Back out comes Malamar. Malamar tanks the Psychic Fangs. That doesn't do much of anything. And it looks like the opponent's already enough of Komviper shenanigans. They're going to let us fully Thunderfang farm down, and we will be emerging victorious. GG's to that opponent. The tough leads for Komviper continue, but I'll be honest, this is some highly entertaining stuff. Oh my gosh. You guessed it, yet another catch. This time of the Night Slash onto the Steel Snake. The opponent rebanks some energy. They're not quite at a charge move. I believe they're one off. Before sending out Corsola, Steelix commits to the Earthquake, unfortunately unable to get there before the Nightshades reach, but Steelix, ever so bulky, shrugs off the damage, reaches the Earthquake, leaving a very solid dent in Corsola's never-ending HP. Dragonite re-enters the arena, looks at the farm down, unable to get it, and that might be a huge mistake. We end up investing the Protect Shield to protect the energy, but back out comes Sizzle. Sizzle respects the Thunder Punch, but the Bullet Punch knocks us out, and this is all starting to go wrong. High risk, high reward stuff. I respect the attempted farm down, but unfortunately didn't quite get there. Sizzle Bullet Punch farms down Drapion, and that ends in heartbreaking defeat and our only loss in the set. GG's to that opponent. Much to my disappointment, heading into the final set of today's Shoutcast, like a Shoutcast Komviper all day, we see Dragonite into Komo-o. The opponent sends out the Steel Penguin, which is certainly an interesting choice, as both our charge moves are super effective. Thunder Punch, force the Protect Shield, and here comes the Steel Snake. As is the regular variant of the Penguin, I imagine we go for the one shield, a full Thunderfang farm down. We tank the first, it looks like we end up under-tapping the Psychic Fangs, losing CMP. I guess Komviper's anticipating a 5 Thunderfangs without the debuff, not knocking out. I guess it would have been close, to be honest. It still took 4, even with a debuff. Back out comes Komviper. We farm up a boatload of energy, looking to fake an Earthquake. Throw the Psychic Fangs. The first one gets no respect. The opponent attempt to farm down. Steelix is so annoying, man. It just does not die. We reach the next Psychic Fangs, forcing the final Protect Shield. We see the aggressive pivot into Dragonite, trying to snipe down the remaining HP with the -2 defense. The opponent forces our final Protect Shield, do concede the farm down. Out comes the Dene. Komviper attempts to trap the opponent into the CMP tie. The opponent doesn't fall for it. However, Dragonite able to reach yet another superpower, and at this point the damage is done. Oh, and that actually ends up being CMP. Oh boy, trainer. Parabolic charge, of course, massive overkill. Drapion gonna enter the arena, Poison Sting farm down, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see the annoying Slug or Snail in the lead position. The opponent banks some energy and send out a Fire Spin Alola Marowak. Shout out Zonic, who always calls this Pokemon the GOAT. Dragonite completely core breaking the opponent. We force a Protect Shield before making the pivot into Drapion. Marowak can fight back in this matchup, having access to Bone Club that would in turn hit for super effective. I was half expecting them to be running the buff Flame Wheel, which used to be the worst charge move in the game. It's now kind of alright. They are still on Bone Club. Out comes Jellicent. Why would you not send out Gastron? Super confused by the opponent's play. They finally do send out Gastron and look to dump the energy. This is definitely somewhat of a less experienced battler, and they are really confused by their play pattern. Would it even be a Jamie Finn upload if it wasn't bamboozled or in shambles at some point? We've ended up getting the absolute alignment we want. Dragonite superpowers, Gastron to the face. We send out Steelix, 1 serve, very easily survivable. Got a Thunder Punch banked and 2 shields. The opponent actually throw their Shadow Ball and then concede the match. Very strange game. Moving on to the next one. We lead Shadow Dragonite into Annihilate. The opponent send out their own Steel Snake. It looks like Komviper wants to force a Protect Shield before pivoting out. No messing around. A straight for said superpower. A superpower forced that Protect Shield, and we enter the mirror. Komviper's opponent opting for the buffed variant of Dragontail, as opposed to Thunderfang. I guess Dragontail's slightly better. It's only single resisted as opposed to our double resisted Thunderfangs. However, the opponent not making any attempt to farm up to anything that could even threaten an Earthquake. The opponent saves Steelix, make the pivot back into Annihilate, greeted with the first Psychic Fangs. I really like how Komviper didn't dump his energy, and throwing these Psychic Fangs on a target where it will at least do some meaningful damage. The second Psychic Fangs force Protect Shield, switch time is up for Komviper. Komviper tries for the Dragon Breath farm down, but even at -2 it ends up being a simul KO. Another very harsh reminder of just how bloody glassy Dragonite is. The opponent running a very toxic team, and if you saw me upload yesterday, this is why I think Nidoqueen is going to have such a role moving forward in the meta. When people have had fun at testing out all their recent picks or newly acquired buffed Pokemon, let me tell you that this team is going to be here, there, and every fucking where. Have a Komviper, despite not running Nidoqueen, makes a savage catch. Would you expect anything else as Drapion looks to close the show? Drapion heavily overfarms, fires off an Aquatail. Aquatail doesn't knock out Bastiodon because it never bloody dies. Back out comes Steelix. Oh man. I think despite Komviper's best efforts, this one might end in defeat. It's going to be a race. Can Drapion outpace to yet another Aquatail? Unfortunately, we cannot. Oh, I'm heartbroken, man. Heading into the next battle, Komviper looking for some redemption and sees Dragon Breath Charizard in the lead position. We say switch into Thunderfang Steelix, and it proves to be somewhat of a core breaker for our opponent. They are ABA weak to Electric. I imagine we're going to fight for switch advantage, and we're going to do exactly that. We see the instant shield deployed, blocking up the incoming Hydro Cannon. Steelix able to one shield, full Thunderfang farm down, and the opponent sends out their own Steelix. We full send the Earthquake. The question is, does the opponent respect the damage? Come on. Wait. There's no shot. Did we just catch an Earthquake? Oh, Komviper, you savage. What a catch. Bro, think of my poor voice. Komviper reminding us all what it takes to be one of the very best. He is pulling off play after play. Steelix re-enters the arena. Psychic Fangs into a Thunderfang farm down. Back out comes the opposing Steelix. Komviper still with a shield to hide behind. But like, trainer, you Earthquake me. You enjoy yourself. Drapion will carry me home. Drapion with such a heavy pacing advantage in this matchup. The opponent going to be unable to bait into a full Earthquake. They do attempt that play. However, as long as 2 Aquatails are lethal, Komviper will be emerging victorious. The first one does half their health. We're now doubled up, and you all know how this one's going to end. The first one forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Drapion rips off the next Aqua Tail, and that is such a fun battle. Komviper, what a win. Heading into the next battle. Dragonite into Azumarill. Formerly, in seasons gone by, one of the worst matchups you could possibly see, but nowadays, with access to Thunder Punch that in turn hits for super effective and with a heavy pace advantage, is nowhere near as bad as you might think. Komviper landed the Thunder Punch, tries for an Ice Beam catch onto Steelix. Unfortunately, catch attempt unsuccessful and hard punished by Marowak. The opponent does a huge favour here, opting to dump their energy when they really didn't need to. They could have tanked another Psychic Fang and then just fully Mudslap farmed us down. As they opted to dump their energy, Dragonite is going to be able to go for a one shield, massive farm down, although the opponent has other ideas, trying to give us that wham bam combo play. Komviper burns the final Protect Shield, returns fire with the next Thunder Punch, force the Protect Shield back, but Dragonite like, bro, there is so much more of where that came from. The next Thunder Punch forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and we see the pivot into Drapion, looking to use it as a damage sponge. Drapion tanks the Ice Beam, the opponent not wishing to concede a farm down, send back out Marowak. We attempt the Sting down unsuccessful, and Bone Club knocks us out. Is now the unshielded Dragonite versus the world. Out comes Crustle. Does Superpower one-shot in this matchup? Superpower! Bang! There it is! Back out comes Azumarill. Komviper gonna give him that bad manners. Yet another Superpower is gonna carry us home with a cheeky screenshot for the road. Heading into the next one. Shadow Dragonite into Corviknight if I can eventually catch my breath back. Despite us being a dragon, by no means a bad matchup due to that newly acquired super effective Thunder Punch that does so much damage. We land the Thunder Punch, make the pivot into Steelix. The opponent stays in and they are getting torn to shreds by the Thunder Fangs. The opponent throw the payback, save Corviknight on fractional HP before sending out Ferret. Ferret very quickly falls victim of the annoying debuff. The opponent not wanting to get debuffed again, opt to fire off their energy. Trailblaze removes the Steel Snake from the field of play. Back out comes Dragonite, and look at this Sucker Punch damage go. Dragonite paper thin and getting eaten alive. Dragonite fires off the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch forces the Protect Shield, and we're going to look to match. Komviper then makes the pivot into Drapion. The opponent pivots out into Samurott behind an energy, and this is shadow on shadow crime. Crunch, almost a one-hit KO. The opponents had enough and they are going to concede the match. And unfortunately, much to my disappointment, that is just about going to wrap things up for today's shoutcast. My gosh, Komviper, you're an absolute demon. That was some phenomenally high IQ gameplay. As said in the intro, this season, Dragonite completely reworked is certainly going to suit players that have really good understanding of energy management and whereabouts their switch timer is. As you can see, Komviper probably made around 15 to 20 catches in 15 battles, which is absolutely absurd. If you are someone that has high gameplay IQ, not only can you pick up plenty of big wins with Dragonite, it looks hella fun to run too. I'll be honest, Steelix on Thunderfang still looks like the way to go in my humble opinion. Despite Dragon Tail being buffed, the meta hasn't got all that many dragons. It's still got plenty of water types that were supposed to disappear, and there are so many flyers. So if you're going to use Steelix, potentially you want to stick to Thunderfang. With all that being said, if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to our battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.